Hello everyone, my name is Ben Phillips, and for my One More Thing assignment I'll be discussing the lean process improvement principles as applied to the world of house flipping. But a little bit about myself. I work full-time in healthcare, like I've seen many of you in our introduction portal, and I'm familiar with these concepts, but by no means am I an expert. I run a managed care and an accountable care organization in Northern California, as well as internal medicine and family medicine. I run the operations for those. So though I'm familiar, I'm not an expert. I thought it would be fun to change things up a little bit and apply these principles to a newly founded business that I've started within the last year, which is GEM Investment Strategies. But before we get started, a little overview. I'll talk a bit about my company, the house flipping value stream, the application of Gemba, why that's important, Kaizen, and visual controls. And for those of you who maybe work in a field that you use lean, and you're familiar with the movie Office Space, if you could stand up, that would be great. And just a little funny to get us started. The intent of GEM Investment Strategies really was for me to create a limited liability company to hold real estate, generally speaking, short-term flips, 6, 9, 12 months. And it's kind of tumbling into something that now I'm hopeful to work with investors on to get them preferred rate of returns. You know, we sit, those of us who have money in a bank are sitting at in a savings account anywhere from, I think today, 1.8 to 1.95%. If you're in a certificate of deposit, maybe you get 2 to 2.5%. And as compared against inflation, we're really losing money. So the intent was, how can we flip houses, or how can we have kind of short-term capital gains, even though they're taxed as that. There are some other strategies with the buy, renovate, refinance, and rent, or even getting into some multifamily properties. But as it pertains to this discussion tonight, I really want to focus on the value stream of house flipping and then how we can apply Gemba and Kaizen and visual controls to that. The value stream of house flipping, and getting into it within the last year, I've had the benefit of partnering with somebody who's really well experienced. And the value stream, I'm going to break into 5 different buckets, being funding, finding the team, property identification, renovation, and resale. And we can break these down into many other buckets and spread it out even further, but the limited time we have, I think we'll stick with those 5 buckets. So funding is, do you have credit and credibility? Do you have a loan, a hard money loan, a private money lender, somebody that's got cash for you? Do you have the cash yourself? Are you pulling money out of an IRA or some other kind of retirement account that you have access to? That's step number 1. There's a lot of processes within that we could focus on. Then there's the team. Generally speaking, the contractor, your real estate agent, a good lawyer, a good CPA, and pulling those teams together oftentimes can be very difficult, and getting those folks to work together is a very important process in the house flipping, realm. And then we move into the property identification. As you've probably heard, in real estate, it's location, location, location. And working with your team members to identify what's a good location, what are you looking at for your rates of return, can we get that done, can we get the deal? And that's really a big part of the success in real estate, is finding the right property that works for your numbers. And then we move into the renovation, which oftentimes has the largest opportunity to apply these concepts in, because we have a long timeline. We work with the city, you got to pull permits. What were the old permits pulled on the property? And we'll delve into an example in the next slide of how we can apply that. But there's a lot of different things that can happen. You run into snags, a pipe breaks, you run into some old electrical wiring, maybe there's a flood, or it's a winter and something freezes while you're working on it. And we're sure to uncover something when opening up the wall. So how can we take these process improvement principles and learn on every single house as we go forward? And then the final bucket is the resale. And that's really, as far as return on investment is concerned, what we're focusing on. But there's a lot that can be done. How's the property marketed? Is the real estate agent staging it? Are they not staging it? How are we going to price it? When we originally do our comps, if you will, or compared what this house will potentially resell for against where it's currently at, maybe the market's dipped a little bit. So how do we strategically price that? And the value stream can be wide and far, but identifying each and every step along the way of how we can improve it is an important process. So Gemba, I think the real place, as as the Toyota Way defines it, but where the work is done. And as we've read in the Toyota Way through this class, it's really an important part of the process for the executives or the higher ups of the company or management or what have you to get to the place where the work is done. So what I have here is a couple of pictures of a house we did in Ohio, and this was us, me and my business partner, going and visiting the property as it was we just got under contract, they just started renovating the property, and these here are some pictures on the right as the property is getting closer to being done. But for us to go and visit the property gives us a different perspective. This is something that, like as I mentioned before, I'm in California, this is in Ohio, so it's not even the same realm of we're up in the ivory tower or we're in the corporate seat of the factory, now we got to go to the floor. I'm across the country. So visiting the Gemba gives us some perspective on the weather, on the conditions of the house, exactly what it is the contractors are working on, and gives us an opportunity to really gel as a team and apply some principles to help speed them up. Now, Kaizen, probably what we'll focus on the most here, is really broken into two words, which the Kaizen Institute says Kai is change and Zen is better. We more commonly understand it as process improvement, or how can we continually create change that's enabling us to do better work, decrease waste, and the cycle goes on. So what I have here is a Plan, Do, Check, Act, or the PDCA. Some refer to it as the PDSA, Plan, Do, Study, Act. But the idea really is, how do we establish an objective? From that point, how do we implement that? How do we check or study the results to see if it's working? And then do we create that now as a new process if it has worked, if we've looked at our data, we look at the process, or do we change our objectives completely? And there's an example with one of my other houses in Ohio where we all, contractors, real estate agents, and us as the operators and folks putting the deal together, didn't realize that there were not permits done for some of the work done on a basement. So the contractors get in, they start working through it, the city comes to inspect it, and we get dinged for not having proper permits. And so we use that as an example of, how can we apply some PDCA to that? How do we ask things like the 5 whys? Why did we open up the walls and continue to work when we didn't have a permit? Second question is, the answer to that question is, we assumed. If we keep going down the line, what we come to realize is that we were operating under assumptions. So our new objective or our new plan is, before we get in contract with any new home, pull all the old permits, right? That will allow us to see, does it have an egress window? Is there a bathroom that's permitted downstairs? And if there isn't, and we notice that it's there, maybe we can have a discussion with the city at that point in time to see if we can get permits, and if not, maybe we bypass the property altogether. But the learning there is, how do we take an objective, put it into place, see if it's working, and then either ditch it, move it aside, or make that a part of our standard work. So for us, as I mentioned, pulling permits or the plans on all properties that we're looking at before we get into contract is something that we acted upon. We made that a part of our standard procedure. Another very important part of our work, or how we at least implement some of these lean concepts, is visual controls. This here, some of you may be familiar with, is a Gantt chart, and all it really does is, on the left-hand side, lists the important parts of our project timeline, if you will, and then we have a field of time, and we've kind of staggered it and color-coded it by when assignments should be done and if we're on time or not. So identify property and close, pull the permits, we have some demo work, there's some inspections for the draws that we have, the financial draws, and then another subset of work. So as you can see on this is just an example, but we have our siding, roof, and concrete. There's a minimal delay, largely because the permit, in this fictitious example, for the roof isn't finalized yet. So we're still not running behind. We don't have any significant delays, but at the same point in time, we're not at the speed that we'd like to be going forward or going into this project. So this is just one way of using visual controls. This is something that can be easily shared with a team via Google Docs or an Excel spreadsheet, weekly meetings to address these kinds of things, and constantly taking the feedback from our team, largely at this point from the contractors, and then it shifts over as we get back into reselling the property with our real estate agent and talking to them about getting a marketing video and getting publishing going, and where are we at in that regard. Just to kind of wrap things up, with regard to real estate investment, at least with flipping houses, very important to understand the value stream, which funding, finding the right team, identifying the property in the right location, the renovation process, making sure we have permits, making sure the work that we're getting into, our team understands and is clearly communicating with one another, and then teeing that up for the resale, identifying or creating opportunities to go visit the Gemba, for us to go and visit the property, and even holding open houses mid-flip. We've seen other folks that invite the public and do a lot of good social media marketing and generating some buzz around it to then create some potential customers or clients thereafter. But getting to the work and getting to the site and seeing it's paramount. It's so helpful in helping us determine what are the next right steps to do. And then finally, how we can create some visual controls and implement that in our daily work or our daily engagement system, if you will. So once again, my name is Ben Phillips. I hope you've enjoyed this short presentation, and I'll be interested to see how the rest of you are applying it in your respective fields. Thank you very much.